you for listening to the NorthStar Narrative, a podcast by NorthStar Academy. I hope you're encouraged, challenged, and motivated by what you learned today. Enjoy the story. Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm so excited today to be sitting down with Tony Memmel. He is a singer, songwriter, speaker, and teacher with unique charisma and creativity. He was born with only one hand, but he taught himself to play the guitar. And he's going to share with us today about that and how God has just used him really all over the world. He has spoken and performed in 47 states and 23 countries, sharing his music and his message of hard work, determination, and resilience. His work ranges from composing symphonies to writing and arranging music for children, visiting schools, hospitals, and churches, to performing in historic concert venues and helping people with hand and limb differences like his to develop their own adaptive methods that allow them to make music a part of their lives. And so I'm so excited about you getting to hear and see, if you're able to watch this on YouTube, how he has overcome what some might say was a difficulty. But as I have watched his videos and gotten to know him, looked at his Facebook page, I'm just amazed at how God has created him and how he is using him. He grew up in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and he now resides in Nashville, Tennessee, not too far from here, from our studio here, with his wife and his son. And he just celebrated his 13th anniversary, I saw. So congratulations, Tony, for that. Thank you so much for just taking time out of your day today and joining us.
Oh, what a joy to be a guest today. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Yeah, it's so fun. So, yep, you've been married 13 years and your son is 3.
That's right. He just turned 3 in November.
Yeah. So tell us, I know family is really important to you. Tell us a little bit about your family.
So I met my wife Leslie a long time ago. When it was my first day of college, actually, I was looking for a place to sit, and we met through music. She was sitting in the choir class, and I was looking for a new place to sit as an incoming freshman. And she was already in the room, and she said, "You can sit by me if you'd like to." And I took her up on that invitation, and we started getting meals together and became friends. And from there, we started to date. And a while later, I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. And thankfully, she said yes. And then a few years back, we had our first son, Theodore. We call him Theo. And he just turned 3, as I just mentioned, in November. So there's a lot happening in our house all the time. He's learning a lot of new language. He plays hard, and he's just in this really amazing learning stage. He's such a sponge right now. Where he even just this morning, I'll even say just moments ago, he wrote his first song. I'll call it. We have a blizzard here in Nashville today, and he just started singing "Snowy Day, Snowy Day," and I recorded it and showed it back to him, and he was really excited about it. So music's big in our house, and that's just a little bit about my family and how we roll.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, I've seen pictures of him and he's adorable. And so I know you have so much fun. Now, I know your wife is part of your band, right? So have y'all been able to travel a lot lately? Does your son get to go with you?
So we traveled extensively, especially before our son was born. My wife and I, in all those countries that you mentioned, she and I together did tours in 9 countries, and she's been to most of those states as well that I've been to. And since Theo was born, it was always our goal that she would be able to. She was by profession a nurse for a long time as well, but to work from home with me and my business that I do as a singer songwriter in my ministry, and also to raise our son from home. So that was our goal. So that changed a little bit of our touring life, but we still make it a priority to, as much as possible, to go together. And so we do that as much as possible. So this past before the pandemic happened, Theo had already been to 35 states, and so that was in his first year and a half.
Wow.
So we really try and just get out and share our ministry and our family with every place we go, in those schools and churches and hospitals that we visit. That's important to us, to come as a unit every chance that we get.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you also said that you like to swim, hike, cook. Sounds like a lot of fun, and that you love hot sauce. And so cooking with hot sauce, tell us about some of your favorite things to cook.
Well, I love to cook. food is a big way that we show love in our house. My wife and I both enjoy that activity, and she's, I would say, the master chef in our house. I happen to be sort of a sidekick, but when it is my turn and my day, I really enjoy cooking. My signature dish is spaghetti, which I don't put hot sauce in. A little caveat there, but I really do enjoy making that special dish. And but I love tacos, and I love Asian food, and in all those travels around the world, you get these opportunities to
Oh
try
yeah.
all these local dishes, and we try. And one of the things we always do when we come home is to try and recreate as best as we can with the ingredients and the whatever's local to us, to be able to try and recreate whatever we've had around the world, whether it's been in the Middle East or Southeast Asia or Central Asia or South America, to come home and bring little pieces of that back with us.
Yeah, I've had the privilege to travel a lot too, and love trying new foods.
Yeah,
So
it's one of the best parts of travel, isn't it?
it is so fun. Thank you for sharing that with us today. And yeah, I'm just so excited for everyone to hear what I've been learning about you. So yeah, tell us about how you decided you wanted to play the guitar and why the guitar.
So you mentioned at the very beginning of the program, I was born with one hand. And from the minute I came into the world, there was a lot of confusion swirling around about what had happened. My parents didn't know that that was going to be the case. They had not had an ultrasound before I was born. So I was immediately taken by the doctor to another section of the hospital where they performed tests on me. They didn't know if I'd need surgery. They didn't know if there were other things that maybe internally that couldn't be seen at the moment that might need attention long term. There was just all these questions, and my parents had wondered what had happened, and just there were very few answers. And later that day, though, the doctor brought me back to my parents' delivery room and said that I had been healthy. I was just born with one hand, and I happen to be one in many thousands of children that is born that way. And with that new information, they were both relieved and also had this wonder of what would my life be like still, these questions that swirled. Would I be involved in sports or music, things that had been important to them when they were growing up? Or would I be bullied in school? Would I ever find a meaningful, loving relationship in my life? And these things sort of started to snowball into this worry, this blizzard of worry, really. And as the weeks went by, I was born right before Christmas. My pastor at my home church where I grew up visited new moms in their homes when the babies were very young, just to meet the new member of the church and to say hello. And he was visiting, and my mom relayed these worries and concerns that she had. And he just stopped and said, after he had listened, and said, "Katie, have you ever stopped to think that Tony might be able to do amazing things in his life
Mm,
through God? That this might not be something that you have to worry about and be concerned about, but something you can actually learn from and teach from and grow from." And this is something that my mom said, honestly, I had not thought of it that way. But from that day forward, it was that sort of fork in the road moment of, you we have decisions to make, even with God's providence in front of us, that there are these paths that we have some choices in. And so she and my dad like had this new decision, and through that they really encouraged me in a lot of things. I think they even pushed me harder than they might have had I been born with two hands. And so through my life, I did get involved in sports, I did get involved in music, and I actually thrived and enjoyed those things so much that when I was a teenager, I had a friend from school named Max, leading to your guitar question, who was just a great inspiration to me. I was about 13 years old, and my friend Max could hear a song off the radio, and before it was even done playing, he could play it on a guitar. He didn't have to look it up online. He didn't have to research it in a book. He could just hear it and play it. And I thought, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I call it, some people call it a talent, which it certainly is, but I think it even goes beyond. I thought it was a gift. And there was something inside me that really stirred, because I thought maybe I love music a lot. I could sing. Maybe that guitar could be something I could enjoy as well. So I started to research guitars. I went to the library and picked out every book I could find about guitars. And I started to page through them. And I learned that my first adaptation would be that even though almost everybody who plays guitars in the world plays like this, where they hold the instrument with their left hand and strum with the right, that there were three pictures in all those thousands of pages in those books that looked like this, where people would strum with the left and hold with the right. It's called a left-handed guitar. And if you've ever seen a cartoon before, where a character gets an idea and they get one of those light bulbs that go up over their
Yeah.
head, I had that light bulb idea and I got so excited about it. I went to the store and I wanted to find my first left-handed guitar, and I got really excited when I saw it until I went over to the wall and it had one of those little price tags on it, and I turned it over and it said $600. And I know we broadcast all over the world, so let's just say it felt like a mountain of money to me as a 13-year-old boy. I didn't have any idea how I would be able to do that. So the first thing I did is I went to my mom and dad and I said, "Hey, mom and dad, wouldn't it be awesome if you bought me a brand new electric guitar?" And they had so many questions for me. They wanted to know where this desire had come from. Was this something I was really truly serious about? And they basically kind of arrived at, we'll meet you halfway, but you have to prove that this is something that you're really serious about. We don't want this to sit in the corner collecting dust. And I'm really glad to this day that they didn't outright go out and buy me a guitar that day, because before I ever held one, before I ever learned my first chords or made my first sounds, I had to work really hard to even get that guitar into my house. I got my first two jobs. I saved everything I possibly could. It took me a long time till I finally went back to that store and I picked out my brand new midnight blue Fender Stratocaster electric guitar. And so that was like sort of this early excited journey for me. I had to work really hard to get it, but I was so inspired, and there was just something put on my heart that music and especially through the guitar and singing was going to be something that was going to be important to me in my life. I didn't know how important. I didn't know how it was going to unfold ultimately. I still don't know that fully, but I trusted that if I worked at it and I kind of followed that goal or that inclination that I had, that I would be able to figure it out.
Wow. Such an inspiration.
Well,
Love it.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. I love Jesus and how he just orchestrates everything, sets it all up, all
He
these little
does.
pieces and how they all just come together, the perfect timing and the connection that you've been able to make with so many people all over the world. So it wasn't easy though. I know you had a lot of very, very hard times figuring it out, and it took 8 years, right? Tell us about that long, hard journey.
Yeah, this is something I really try and stress, emphasize, make sure that is remembered when I have the opportunity to speak with students. Is that it can be something when you look at an athlete or a musician or a scientist, anybody in any field that you might be interested in who is a professional in that area. It can seem like a really far distance from where you might begin to where somebody ends up. And I just want to tell people every chance I get is that guitar was not easy for me. It was so hard. So as you just mentioned, it took me 8 years of trial and error. When I first sat down, and I can demonstrate this for you. When I first sat down with my guitar to make my first sounds on the instrument, I'd sit down and I take my arm and look at my fingers to try and find the right spots on the guitar, and it sounded a little like this. It was nice, but it was so quiet. I wanted to have that signature Tony Memmel sound, like kind of be able to rock and be kind of loud about it, right? And I noticed that when I was trying to play on my own, that it wasn't exactly where I knew it could be or where I hoped it could be. And so I started to think, what if? What if I could do something even different than that? What if there was even more to know about the guitar still? And as I started to just kind of think about it, I made a really amazing discovery. I realized one day that I was born with one hand and a perfect guitar pick spot.
That just blows me away to think about. I mean, how God is so intricately putting us together. That's not an accident.
That's not an
that
accident.
that
I
one spot. And so
this is,
if some people are just listening, describe a little bit more for people that are listening right now and not watching.
of course, of course. So I have a space on the end of my arm that is the exact size of one of these tools. Called a guitar pick. It's like the size of a coin, but it's in the shape of a triangle, and it makes more sound for a guitarist. It's a tool that a guitarist uses to strum and pluck the guitar strings. And I was born with a space on the end of my arm that is the exact size. Like I was 100% made to play the guitar. And as I think about it, I don't think I've ever used that space for anything else in my life. It was just kind of waiting there for me my entire life in by design for me to one day have have all these tools and ideas in, ready to go. And when I put it in that guitar pick into the guitar pick spot, I started to be able to make more sound from the instrument. But even still, even with that design in mind, even with that space that I have, it still required even more attention. It still required even more discipline and practice because sometimes that it's not the same as holding a guitar pick with fingers or with your hand. It's actually kind of like a looser grip than that. So my guitar pick sometimes falls right into the hole of my guitar. And so I would have to spend my practice time that day not learning a new song, but with my guitar over my head trying to shake a guitar pick out of the inside. So I started to think, what if I could build or create a special cast or a tool or a device that would help me to hold it in place even better? And I started to create. I took an empty shoebox that I found in the basement of my house and I just went around our house searching for supplies. Like, and I filled it up with tape and glue and strings and socks and paper clips. And I kind of became like a scientist at my kitchen table trying to design adaptive guitar casts. And that's where that 8 years came in because I tried a lot of different things. Some of them I even brought to the stage to see how it would work. And some of them worked well. Some of them offered me sort of a jumping off point to my next design idea. And it was all those years later that I was playing in front of a crowd, and one day my cast fell off. I was in college. Remember, I said I was 13 years old when I started, so I think I was a sophomore in college when I this happened. And a friend of mine said, "Tony, have you ever heard of this strong, extra sticky tape called Gorilla Tape? I think you could find some at the local hardware store." And I said I had not heard of it, but I went the next day and I found my first roll of Gorilla Tape and I started to bring it back to my dorm room to continue to design. And so I took that guitar pick and I put it in my guitar pick spot there. And then I rip off 3 pieces and I started to build. And for anybody listening today, my arm begins or ends right about where my elbow is. I have just a little bit of bend past my elbow. So I was training my arm to be able to work and play the guitar the way that a guitarist with 2 hands uses fingers or their wrists and all their other parts of their arm. But if you think about it, those are really different muscles, right? If you can picture that, maybe you even do it right where you are. You bend your fingers or you flex your wrist kind of. You can even make it loose so it kind of can go faster, but your elbow doesn't do that the same way. So when I would start to play the guitar, this was another thing that was really tricky. I would sit down to play it and I would get so tired. Like if you've ever run like for a long time uh, and your legs feel kind of like jelly or noodles when you're done, that's kind of how my arm would feel. I would get so tired after playing one song that I could barely continue to play until I kept practicing. And then the next week I could play 2 songs and the next 4 until I could play for 4 hours in a row. And I like to just say that even in these things that I believe that God designs us to do, I think there's still work to do on our part. There's still ways that we have to continue to take those gifts that we're given and shape them and mold them with the time and talents that we are given, right? And that was something that I learned through that process. And through all that time, I took those 3 pieces of tape and I designed this cast. And you heard what it sounded like before, and if you're watching, you saw it, but I'll just show you what I could do with my Gorilla Tape cast on.
That's the Tony Memmel sound.
And there it is. A little different, right?
Wow.
A little
Praise
different.
God.
And if you have a musical ear, you know my guitar is just a little bit out of tune today, so I apologize for that. But hopefully you get the gist of what those big changes of sound really were like for me. It was pretty monumental, as you can hear.
Yeah. Wow. I am not a musician, so I would not know if it's out of tune. It'd have to
Okay.
really be out of tune.
I
It
know we
sounded
have
great to
listeners.
me.
I know we have a lot of listeners all over the world, so I'll just throw that in there that it's
Yeah.
that if you have a musical ear, you might know that. But it is a big difference from what I did with that Gorilla Tape and what it was like before. So it's a big part of what I like to try and demonstrate and show to people all over the world when I have the opportunity to
Oh, yeah.
speak and make music.
Wow. Yeah. Because 8 years is a long time. We sit here and listen to the story real quickly, but 8 years to actually go through that and be working and persevering. How many times did you just want to give up?
You know, I think that's sort of a funny thing about my story. I don't have a lot of recollection of days where I wanted to quit. Um, in fact, I can't tell you one off the top of my head. I know there were times where it was hard. There were times where it was definitely frustrating, but that never got to a point where it was like, I need to stop doing this because I am out of love with this thing. Or it always felt like something that, okay, try again, come back another day. You can find another way. There was always something pushing me forward and guiding me through those days. So the worst I can think of sometimes it was most frustrating when I would be in front of an audience, and I kind of breezed over this before, but I started a band when I was in high school, and I would play in front of a crowd, and I'd have all of our friends there and everybody in our community, and be in the middle of a song, and my guitar casts, one of my early designs, would fall off in the middle of a song, and I'd have to get through the song as best as I could, but then figure out how to first of all redo my cast really fast, or pass on the responsibility to another guitarist in our band to maybe play my parts for the day, whatever it happened to be. But most importantly, it taught me a lot of other lessons that I might not have gotten another way, like how to be more comfortable in front of an audience, how to be more comfortable with failures that come along the way, right? So somebody in that circumstance might walk off the stage or be frustrated, or rather kick their guitar rather than continue a concert with it. But that taught me all those things along the way. There were all these lessons in those momentary frustrations that led to a lifetime of lessons that I could take in. And I think there's a lot of those things that come into our lives, right? We can look at them in different ways, and I think God puts things in those different parts of our lives and in different trials that actually make us more and shape our character into who we're meant to be, don't they?
Yeah. Wow. That is, yeah. God has just done an amazing work. And I just love that I get to hang out with you and to see you and hear it. And yeah, so cool. So, do you feel like you have missed out on anything in life, or are you so thankful for God made you, how God made you exactly the way you are?
I am so thankful that God made me exactly the way I am. I have never looked at my life as something to be pitied or something to be frustrated about. And I think that first came from God. And I think that was inspired into that pastor who I was telling you about from my home church, who then, spoke that well-timed word, right? The Bible says, how sweet is that well-timed word, that went into my parents' ears and into their hearts. And I had cousins who pushed me hard. I had actually a little sister who still pushes me hard some days, and who always brought out humor in me, and always brought out um, uh, a desire to do my best in things. And I think it's also opened the door to meet a lot of people. It's opened my door to a lot of interesting ministries. There's so many things that have happened because I have one hand that I'm very, very grateful for it.
So I was just watching some of your videos last night with my 6-year-old son and just being so excited, saying, look what God has been
Mhm.
able to do through his life. Where some might say, he's missing out, with one hand instead of two. But we could see very clearly that God made you just the way he wanted you. And so there might be some students listening now or others that feel like, oh, they were not made the right way, or why was I created this way, or I don't like this about myself. You know how the enemy wants to come in, and it could be any little thing, a big thing, whatever it is. But what do you say to someone that might really be struggling with the way God made them,
Sure.
and they're not wanting to embrace it?
Well, one thing that I would just say is something really simply that what the world may perceive as weakness is actually the source that God often puts in with works his greatest strength. And I'll just tell you a story of something that happened to me once. I was visiting a school and I was standing in the front of the classroom as the students were filtering into the class. And as some of the students were filtering in, one of the young boys in the class shouted out, "Gross," when he saw my arm, just like blurted out, "Gross." And the teachers in the room like went over to sort of reprimand the student and remove him from the classroom. And when I saw that happen, I actually asked, "Would you mind if he just stayed for a little while and we just have the conversation?" And they said that would be all right. And the rest of the students filtered in, and I started to talk. And I told them some of the stories that I'm telling you today. That I'm Tony Memmel. I was born with one hand. I taught myself to play the guitar. I travel all over the world making music for people. I taught the songs that I teach. And by the end of that time together, that boy had his arm actually stuffed in his shirt, like copying and like wanting to be just like Tony Memmel.
Oh,
And so
wow.
something that I like to tell people who might be feeling a little uncomfortable in their skin or might actually have somebody who is doing that work for them in that way, or like you mentioned, like an enemy kind of working against them in that way, is to hang in there, try and approach every situation remembering that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that we are told that we are the hands and feet of God, that we do different things, we look differently, we behave a little bit differently, we have different functions in that body, right? And that just to work into, live into, dream into those things that you are designed to be, and to follow through on that, to work on them in the ways that you can, and to just try and remember that you are made by a God who loves you and who designed you that way for a reason.
Yeah. There's no mistake.
Hmm.
He didn't miss something.
Hmm.
Whatever lies the enemy wants to tell, we're made exactly like we need to be. Whatever we're going through, he's in control. And so, yeah, I really wish every person could meet you, and just get to sit down with you like this and talk and hear how um, you have just truly, fully embraced what God has for you. And because of that, it's so evident that he has given you an incredible passion. And out of that, it's just fun. I can just look at your life and say, you're just having fun. You're having
I
fun because
feel
it's so fun to follow God and
it
to
is.
hang out with him and be with him. And then just the joy of the Lord that comes out of you when you're getting to share your
Yeah.
experiences and your story. And so I love listening to you, the connection. I love the word connection, how God just placed you in a community from the very beginning with Max. Had the guitar, and then your friend that told you about Gorilla Tape at
Mhm.
just the perfect time. I mean, what if you had found out about Gorilla Tape the first day you decided to play the guitar? What would have changed your life?
It's crazy to think about, isn't it? I have never actually never thought of it that way. That of what would have happened had it been so soon. But I know that all of the time that I did have to put in to learning this craft and actually started to inform mission for me later in life, because all those designs and those potential failures and materials that I used before I found Gorilla Tape ended up being designs or ideas that I could use to use with other students, people who came into my life later on who had different kinds of differences from myself, who might have benefited from similar cast designs that I did earlier. And so, isn't that amazing? That
It is
that
amazing.
it wasn't. Nothing was for naught. Nothing was.
No, he wastes
It was
nothing.
That's
No
right.
time. I always go back to in the Bible, Joseph. If anybody knows Joseph in the Bible and how he struggled for a while, in prison, and just you would think, wow, what a waste. Or David, when he's out, the shepherd boy with the sheep, what a waste of time, some people might say, but he's training. He was
Mhm.
training. God was training you during those 8 years for what was going to come. So if you're listening right now, embrace where you are. What is God training you for? No matter how little it may seem or how hard it may seem, what is he training? So that is a huge takeaway I have from getting to know you, and just be still in the moment. I love when God says, be still and
Yeah.
know him, and listen, because man, how much do we miss out on when we just, but here's a question for you. If you would have just said, I cannot stand this, I hate this, and given up, what all would you have missed out on?
My life would be drastically different. I almost everything that I do now in my professional life and my ministry, almost all of it revolves around music and especially guitar in some way. Almost all of those travels have something to do with music or sharing that ministry through guitar. And so, and all of those meaningful connections with youth around the world, all of those school visits, they're all because of that. And that would, like I mentioned earlier, that was not evident to me as a young child. I didn't ever understand or dream that I would grow up to do exactly what I'm doing. It sort of became something that was lit for me, a path that was lit for me step by step. I had big goals. I had big dreams. I don't want to say that too flippantly or something like that, but I do want to say that it was laid out in a design that was differently than maybe I had planned or
Yeah.
would have thought planned for myself, or some sort of traditional plan for somebody to be a famous guitarist or musician around the world. That my plan has been very, very different. My walk has been very, very different from books I read about other guitarists and things like that. It's been my own, but it's been designed, and I've been known every step of the way by my creator, who put all those things in place for me. And and so, just like you mentioned, I try even to this day to take the mission, the goal that's in front of me for that day, to do my very best with the time and tools that I have today to see to it and to steward it well into the future.
Yeah. Wow. Also, how can one look at your life and say there's no creator, that there's no God?
I
When
hope
you,
not.
if anyone starts to doubt, I mean, just think about his arm, the little place for the pick. God
Mhm.
is so detailed, so perfect, so amazing. There's so many questions I want to ask you, but I know we've been talking for a long time. But I want you to be able to tell about your new adventure. It's not exactly new. You've been able to work with the camp for a while, Camp Blessings, Texas, but now you're doing more with them. So tell everybody about this camp, just in case they know someone that would want to join in this camp, or maybe they do at some point.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, this is a really passionate ministry for me. I work with a camp, a summer camp for youth called Camp Blessing in Texas, in the United States of America. We host people from all over the country, but we would certainly host anyone from around the world, especially people who have Down syndrome or uh, various kinds of autism, and other physical needs that the camp can help to provide this wonderful summer camp experience to anybody, and to their siblings as well. So through the course of the summer, we have most weeks where we have youth, and then we have several weeks where we have an adult camp. So it goes from 7 to 24, and then 24 through as old as you are. And we have the most fun you could possibly imagine, and all of it points toward following Christ and demonstrating what that means every step of the way. We have horseback riding. We have a amazing swimming pool. We have worship every single night, which is some of the most powerful worship you've ever been a part of. We sing from the deepest parts of our soul when we're together at camp, and just hearing those voices come together, even just as I speak now, it gives me a chill. It's so incredibly powerful. So yeah, if you or somebody you know has would be interested in special needs ministry, please check out our website, campblessing.org, or feel free to email me, Tony at campblessing.org. I'm sort of a storyteller for camp. I like to just tell everybody I possibly meet about all the amazing things that we do there and the people that we have the joy to serve, and to really see the I've been talking about my own story this whole time, but to see so many different kinds of designs of people who were made with purpose. There's a song I love called Canvas and Clay, and it says that he's the artist and the potter, and we're the canvas and the clay, and he makes all things come together, right?
Yeah, he
For
does.
his glory and for
Yeah.
his good. And so that's a song that I lead every Monday when our especially our volunteers arrive, to remind everybody here why we serve, and to be looking for these things, for these unique gifts and talents and abilities that the Lord designs each of us with. And it's an incredible experience, and I'm joyful. And as you can probably hear, I
Yeah.
love talking about it.
So yeah, you get to work with, I know, kids at that camp, but you've gotten to work with kids virtually, especially in these last, couple years, the pandemic and all that, and then just traveling around the world. So what's your favorite thing about working with kids?
My favorite thing about working with kids, I love a good sing along, and whether we're virtual or in person, I love, like, if we're virtual, when you can see the different students in their window chats and they're all singing along, and wherever they are in their kitchen or their room, or with their families, that I like to teach songs that hopefully get stuck in your minds, that you can remember when you need it sometime down the road. That something encourages you. That's something that'll pop back in your mind, whether you remember My Name is Tony Memmel or not. That you remember the song I Am Never, Never, Never Gonna Give Up, and you remember your design. You remember your designer. You remember your calling, your passion, and why you're doing what you're doing. And so those are the types of things that I value the most. Much of my teaching revolves around music in some way. I have the opportunity to tell stories and then to share music. And hopefully, like I said, I like to teach songs that get stuck in your head. I like to teach songs no matter where I am in the world, whether we share a common language or not, that you can hopefully be singing along with as a giant crowd,
Yeah.
or in your kitchen, wherever you happen to be, by the time the song is through.
So what is a song that you've written that you love to do? Do you have a sing along song you've written, or
Yeah,
another
yeah.
favorite?
I am never, never, never going to give up. That's one of my favorites to
Okay.
teach. I
Okay.
teach it a lot at camp and around the world.
Yeah, that's a great song. And so at the end of the podcast, we're about to wrap up. Make sure you stick around so you can hear Tony playing his song. All right, Tony, is there any last things you want to say that you haven't been able to share yet? And then tell everyone how they can connect with you. I know Camp Blessing, you gave them your email, but is there a Facebook, website, anything that you like to connect with people on?
Absolutely. So, just to touch one more thing on what you've mentioned before about especially learning in a virtual capacity, one of the things that I've been really trying to encourage students and teachers with around the world is thinking about something that came to me this last year, is thinking about, actually, and maybe this is something that your teachers have even taught. I was thinking about when I was a kid and I was in school, and I was pretty little, about first grade, and we were learning about butterflies. And I remember we actually got to see a butterfly transformation from a caterpillar into a butterfly. And I remember when the caterpillar had made its cocoon and it was starting to break free from it, that it was sort of an inclination or a desire of the students to want to open the cocoon for the butterfly to help it out. But what happens through that process, the teacher said, wait, let the butterfly work on it, because that's the process that the butterfly actually builds its strength to become what it's meant to be able to have the strength to function as a butterfly. It actually needs that resistance. It needs that push to actually grow it into what it's meant to be. And as I was thinking about that in virtual learning, and in a lot of ways, and being in our own houses a lot of the time, that we're kind of in our own cocoons, right? And we're all kind of, what I wanted to stress for people as we're doing that is that I'm hoping through this time that we can be pushing through that time in learning new skills, learning new ways to learning what is possible in these times. Remember, we are designed, we are destined for a time and place by a designer, a creator who put us here for a specific time and reason, that you have this unique ability in this time to be like those butterflies, that as you push through this, your own cocoon, whether it's your kitchen or your bedroom, wherever you feel like you might be even confined for a long period of time, that you are growing, you are getting stronger, and those things will benefit you, even if you don't see it completely today, into the future. And I just want to encourage you with that today. And and also, I would love to continue to connect with you. This is hopefully the start of our friendship today. But again, my name is Tony Memmel. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and my website, tonymemmel.com. Tony is spelled Tony, and Memmel is spelled like the word mammal, but with E's instead of A's. And you can find me if you Google it anywhere in the world. And I'd be happy to connect with you. And I try and respond to all my messages, and to become a resource to you any way I possibly can.
Yeah. So make sure y'all check out Facebook and his website, because there's some really cool videos of him sharing his songs and his band, and then just his travels around the world. So you are an inspiration. It has been so fun to get to just meet you and know you. And so thank you again so much for sharing your life with us here at NorthStar.
It's been a joy to get to know you too, Stephanie. Thank you for your time today, and wishing everybody a great day today.
Stick around for the song now.
In the heart there lives a call to a longer haul, a dream that demands your all. It's the hardest, clearest choice when you hear its voice. Step up and stand tall. There's an old and simple code you'll learn as you go, the truth the wise come to know. You get out what you put in, come lose or win. Sing this anthem of the soul. I am never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, 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 never gonna give up. I am never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, 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 never gonna give up. Whoa, on your harder days when the trail you blaze is feeling more like a maze, there's a path where there's a will up the highest hill. Sing this anthem, keep the faith. I am never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, 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 never gonna give up. I am never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, 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 never gonna give up. Gotta get that grit, resilience and strength. Gonna go the distance no matter the length. Gotta be what I am meant to be. Got a plan, got a purpose, got a destiny. Gonna be ready for anything that comes my way. No rain will ruin my parade. Gotta get good at getting up when I get knocked down. That's my anthem, turn up that sound. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, 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 never gonna give up. I am never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, 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 never gonna give up. I am never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, 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 never gonna give up. I am never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, 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 never gonna give up. I am never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never gonna give up. Never, 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 never gonna give up. I am never, never, never gonna give up. Never, never, never